Hi there, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 334. I'm Lisa, also known as fibernymph on most of social media, and today is Saturday, March 21st. We're 2 days out from the first day of spring, or fall, depending on which hemisphere you're in. So I hope you're having a good moment right now. I was gonna say, I hope you're having a good spring so far, but you know what? It's a little rough. I really don't want to dwell on that right now because I would like the podcast to be a nice bright spot in your day. But I'm sure it's going to come up here and there. So I'll try to keep it minimal, referencing current events, because obviously I'm not trying to ignore it. It's a big thing. I'm set up a little differently in here today. I actually tried to record yesterday and I was in the yarn room. I just washed my hands, they're clean, so if I touch my face, don't freak out, okay? Seriously. Yeah, I tried to record yesterday in the yarn room because my husband's now working from home. I'm very, very relieved at this because he was still going to the office every day and he actually had to be out in the field one day last week. But he now is all set up and connected here at home, but he needed someplace where he could spread out and be in good light because he has tons and tons of hard copy files he has to work with. So he's overtaken this room. He is sorry. Now my nose is itchy because, of course, I'm trying not to touch it. Anyway, yeah, so we've got a table set up over here for him against the French doors. Well, that's not really a French door. It's a single door. Anyway, the door going out to the deck. So even if the weather gets nice and I want to record out on the deck, I'll have to make him move so I can get out there. But then that'll be awkward because he'll be sitting at his makeshift desk staring at me talking to myself out on the deck. That'll be weird. But on the upside, he gets to sit there and look out at the birds all day while he's working. And he's yesterday he was on a lot of phone calls, so he was just basically sitting there watching the birds. I'm thinking that's pretty awesome. So anyway, yeah, he's out here, but we've kind of had to rearrange everything out here, and so I'm set up differently because I wasn't going to move everything back just so that I could record the podcast. But it's okay. I mean, maybe you can't tell a difference, actually. I just have the camera setting further back, and my computer's right in front of me now, where usually it's off to the side. I don't know, whatever. Hey, how are you? Are you doing okay? I hope you are. I know it's a stressful time, and I know everybody's dealing with it differently, but just want to tell you, I'm right there with you if you're feeling a little anxious, or maybe even a lot of anxious. The whole fact that it's just all this unknown is very unsettling, right? Day to day, things change, hour to hour even. So it can be difficult, and I get that, and I'm very empathetic to that. And so my goal is to not dwell on that right now and to just talk to you about yarny things for a while and some upcoming stuff. And I have a plan that I think I'm going to try to do extra episodes, just short ones, not hour-long ones. But a lot of podcasters are doing that right now anyway, and I think that's awesome because it gives you so many opportunities to divert yourself from everything that's all, and just watch something relaxing and fun and, warm and fuzzy. So that's what I think I'm going to do, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the podcast as well. But anyway, today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about some knitting. I have a finished object. I have 2 works in progress that I cast on since I talked to you guys last. Because remember, last time I didn't really have any whips going on. So, I don't know. I have a couple imaginary projects, things I'm thinking about that haven't quite started yet. I've got one new thing to share with you. I have prizes. No, I don't. Well, I do have prizes, but not for what I was going to say. We're going to talk about the 20 and 20 challenge here just for a moment because there's not a lot to say about it, but next episode there will be prizes for the first quarter. And then I have the episode 333 celebration drawing winners to announce. So that's exciting. And you know what? It dawned on me after I recorded and after I had set up how I was doing this that, I really did unintentionally exclude people who aren't on Ravelry from these drawings. And I'm so sorry about that because that was not intentional. And I kind of forget that a lot of people have migrated off Ravelry or don't use Ravelry as much anymore. So I can't do anything about that for these 3 drawings that I'm doing today. But in the future, I will keep that in mind, and I will make a way for you to be able to participate in the drawings even if you are not part of the Ravelry group. So I do apologize for that. It was not an intentional slate. I will try to be better about that. Okay, so then we'll have some 10%, and we'll include a little bit of recipe talk, new recipes. All of them were fails. It's not a happy recipe segment this week, but you know, it's a learning lesson. And then shop news. I do have some shop news for you. So let's get started. I tried to do this yesterday. I recorded the whole episode back in the yarn room, and it ended up being so dark in there because it was a super dreary day, and my husband is actually using my Ott light also so that he has extra light when he needs it out here. So I had no extra light, and by the end of my recording, it was so dark. I looked like I was in a cave. So, yeah, that's not the one that's going up. Plus, I babbled so much. I mean, I know that's not a stretch. I babble a lot anyway, but it was bad yesterday. I was all over the place. All right, so I've got a finished object for you, and they are the mitts that I showed you. I think last time I showed them to you in the shop news segment because it's a sample of the customer's favorites colorway, which is my 9th anniversary colorway for this year. So this was the one I was knitting on last week, and this is the second one that's finished. I finished it on Tuesday evening while I was watching the Dropkick Murphys live stream concert, their St. Patrick's Day concert. Did you guys watch that? That's so awesome. I think that's also a great thing going on right now. So many bands and artists and performance groups and things are live streaming things, and so many like zoos and everything are, I mean, I think they often have those feed, the cameras, you know, the penguin feed or the, you know, the elephants or the giraffes, and you can always watch them, but like they're advertising them now and they're like, hey folks, you can't go anywhere here, look at our animals. I've been enjoying them. So anyway, here are my mitts. This is not a pattern that I have written up. It's just one that I kind of did on my own. I have made several pairs of fingerless mitts like that though, so I may write this pattern up. I do have 2 fingerless mitt patterns up on Ravelry for free that I wrote a long time ago. They're called Fast and Easy Fingerless Mitts, and one is a knit flat version and one is knit in the round. And so this is more or less sort of an extension of that, although I don't honestly know if the stitch count is the same because I didn't bother looking at it. Anyway, it's different because this has a much longer cuff, and I may have done the gusset slightly differently as well. Actually, I think I did it quite differently. Anyway, the mitts. I will try to write this up, and I'll just put it up as a free pattern. That'll be my goal. Anyway, but this is my cozy worsted weight base, and this is the 9th anniversary colorway called Customer's Favorites, and I used US 5 needles for all of them. This was the first one I knit, and this was the second one, and I can tell because this one is much snugger. I think my tension was like much tighter when I was knitting this one. So anyway, otherwise they're the same, and I'm happy. I mean, they're not the same, they're not matchy, but with a 9 stripe repeat, it would have been hard to have matchied them up without wasting a lot of yarn. So anyway, I like them, and like I said, I will try to get a pattern written up for them and get those up for you. I wonder if I used a different stitch count for the 2 mitts, because now that I'm looking at them, they do look quite different. I don't know. I mean, look. The first one is definitely wider than the second one. Granted, I've tried the first one on a lot more than the second one. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. Anyway, so that's my first finished, well, it's my only finished object. My first work in progress I'll show you, only because it's the one that's on top and you haven't seen it before, is just one of my, it's kind of a plain vanilla elongated triangular shawl. I've knit a lot of these. It's a pattern that I just use myself. I've never written it up, though I'm thinking about writing that up too, because for a while I've had an idea to do sort of a series of these based on ones that I've made before. So that's sort of percolating in my brain. We'll see if that happens. But here's how it looks so far. Let's see, here's the front. Not that it matters because it's garter stitch. And as you might be able to guess, this is out of Noro. This is Noro Taiyo. Let's see, I can't show you. There's the... There we go. All right, anyway, you get the idea. Noro Taiyo, and if you look at the back, you can see that there are... Yeah, I've hit 2 knots in this ball of Noro Taiyo already. There's one... I don't know, the other one's hanging here somewhere. You're probably seeing it. And, oh, here it is. Yeah. It's sort of crazy because I'm not even halfway through the ball. But Noro is notorious for having so many knots in their skeins. Luckily, both of these, actually, they picked up with the same color where the knot was, which is not always the case. You get weird jumps in the color progression, but that wasn't the case so far. So who knows how many more knots I'll come in contact with. But this is Noro Taiyo. I have 4 balls of it. I bought it at a local yarn shop that isn't even in business anymore several years ago. And I just love the colors. It's not, and I didn't have enough yardage to make a garment, but I thought, oh, it would make a decent sized shawl or a larger thing like that. So that's what I'm doing. And it's color number 15. So Taiyo number color 15. You guys know I love Noro. I go through spurts where I knit with Noro, and I love Noro, and I am a Noro rescuer. Like if I'm ever at a yarn shop and I see Noro in the clearance bin, I rescue it because I just love it. Even though it's weird to work with sometimes, I just love the colors. I just think they're so cool. So anyway, I'm using US 8s for this, and honestly, this was not planned. Like I wasn't like, I need a shawl. I don't need a shawl. What I needed the other day, and actually I may have had this cast on before I recorded last time, but it was probably like just cast on, so I didn't bother showing it to you. But I was sitting back in the yarn room one day on the couch, and I was sort of feeling stressed. You know, stressed in that way where you get, where you're kind of like paralyzed and can't really figure out what you should be doing, even though you know you have a dozen things you should be doing. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, I need something that I can relax with. And so I was staring at my cubbies, my yarn cubbies straight across from me, and this yarn popped out at me. And that's why I have all that yarn set up in those cubbies like that, so that when I'm like that, I can be inspired and I can see things. So I thought, you know what, I've had this yarn for a few years, I need to knit something with it. So I grabbed one of the balls off the shelf, and I cast on for this, and it has been nice. I mean, obviously I have not been spending tons of time on it. I just pick it up here and there. Like I was on the phone with my mom this morning for a little while. She's doing fine. Thank you. Some people have asked how my mom's doing in Florida. She's good. For a while there, they were going out still, like to some family members' house. I'm like, stay home. Quit going out so much. So she's finally gotten the message. She's like, I'm not going anywhere. Okay. So anyhow, I was talking to her and I worked on it a little bit. But anyway, it's just very relaxing. And it's, you know, it's squishy because it's garter stitch. And it's comforting. And that's what I needed. And I would encourage you, if you end up having like a moment where you're kind of feeling like you need to breathe because you haven't in the last hour or so, you know, just don't feel bad about casting on a completely frivolous project. If it's something that's yarn you want to work with, or but even if you may end up ripping it out, because honestly when I cast that on I thought, you know, I may just end up ripping this out. I think I won't though, because I am sort of enjoying it. But you know what, it's okay. If the act of casting something new on brings you joy, go for it. You can always rip it out later if it doesn't really serve a purpose after that. The purpose may just be that therapeutic effect of casting on, and that's fine. You're allowed. I give you permission. Cast on with wild abandon, guilt-free. It's probably okay to just do whatever you want. Oh, this is how anarchy starts. Have you guys seen the meme going around? No, I'm all over the place. What did I tell you? There's a meme going around. If I can find it, I'll try to remember to pop it in here. With characters from Thunderdome, Mad Max Thunderdome on there, and the text on it says, "So, do we start dressing like this right now, or is there a required waiting period?" And it's sort of funny, you know. I thought it was funny anyway. All right, the other project that I have on the needles is actually a pattern that I can tell you. It is the Lineage Pullover, and the designer for the Lineage Pullover is Gabrielle Vazina. I don't have a picture of it to show you from the pattern because I did not print the pattern out. I'm just doing it from my phone right now because it's not super complicated. But it's a beautiful striped pullover. You're alternating yarns, and I think she wrote it for the purpose of being able to like use up scraps or what have you. I've seen so many pretty versions of it though, and it's written for sport or DK weight yarn. She's kind of lumping those together because she doesn't give you different needle sizes. You're using US 2s for the ribbing and US 4s for the rest of the body, which that seems tight to me for DK versus sport. However, the fabric I'm getting with that is fabulous, and I am doing it in DK. So here's mine so far. Here, well actually here, I'll show you the yarn first. It's sort of a hot mess. It's in this basket. That's a note that I have for where I'm at stitch count wise, but these are the 6 yarns that I'm using. This was a serendipity sweater set that I dyed last year, probably in the fall, and I decided to hold on to it because it didn't sell at whatever show I took it to, and so I kept it because I really love these colors. So here they are, very autumnal, and you can see the serendipity skein down here. So what I'm doing is I'm alternating, you know, every 2 rows you're alternating, but I'm doing 2 colors at a time, and then I'm staggering when I change them. So the first color I started, you know, with the ribbing, and then I ended up doing, I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, yeah. So I kind of counted that as 4 stripes with that first color, and then I introduced the second color after the ribbing, and I did 6 colors of it. So it's basically, there will be like 6 colors, but by the 4th color in, I'm alternating in a new color. So there will always be an overlap. Does that make sense? I have it written out, the formula that I'm using, on my project page if you want to follow that a little better than how I just described it. But, and rather than using it in the gradient that I dyed it in, I'm staggering the colors also. So like a dark color, a lighter color, a dark color, a lighter color. Actually, I did a dark and then the serendipity color too. So there will be a little bit more contrast, because if I did it just as the gradient, there would be a very, very subtle contrast. I mean, looking at it now, I mean, it is very subtly contrasted. Down here, you can see it a little bit better, like with these most recent colors. The serendipity skein, actually that's showing up pretty well here. But because the serendipity skein has a lot of the other colors all in it, it does sort of blend in a little bit more. But I think the overall effect is going to be lovely once the sweater's finished. So at this point, I'm using colors 5 and 6, and then I'll circle back around and start doing, you know, go through the whole cycle again. So, whoops, losing some stitches here. I'm almost to the point where I'm ready to separate for the sleeves. I did try it on the other day. I'll put that picture in here too. I was concerned about the neckline because it's a square neckline, and I like that, but the way it was looking as I was knitting it, it looked like, ooh, it might want to flop open. And I was concerned about that. So once it got far enough along that I could put it on a couple sets of needles and try it on, I did, and I was really glad to see that that's not going to be a problem, because once it sits on you correctly, it's holding its shape, and that neckline is not flopping anywhere. Now, obviously, there was not any neck shaping in this one, just because of how you're building this sweater and the striping. There wasn't really any way to put short rows in. I mean, I guess you could have with that first color maybe, but I did not. And it's fine. It's going to sit low. I mean, it's a wide collar. It comes out to about here. I mean, you'll see in the picture. So it's going to be sort of open at the neckline anyway. And I'll probably wear, you know, a tank top or something underneath it. But whatever, it's fine. And I think once there's sleeves on it, and the sleeves are helping to hold it on your body too, that's going to keep the shape nice around your neckline. So my neckline. I don't know why I'm saying yours, because I'm not letting you wear my sweater. I mean, I might if you asked nicely, but anyway. So here's how it looks so far. I'm really happy with it. I love these colors, and this is my Mountain Tweed DK. I just love tweed. Tweed makes me so, so happy. So anyway, there it is, and this is the thing I've probably spent the most time working on. I don't know, I feel like being monogamous with my knitting for the most part right now, aside from obviously that little shawl that I'm just kind of working on here and there. I do think I might be working on some socks soon, but I haven't made that decision. I don't need any more socks, but I was watching, I think it was a Grocery Girls episode, maybe their most recent episode, and they were talking about marling. And I don't know that they were talking about it with regard to socks, but I was thinking about it with regard to socks. Like, I've got so much scrap yarn. I thought, oh, maybe that would be fun to do some marled, scrappy socks, because they would be like DK weight socks if I was holding fingering weight together. And I could do like shorty socks, because I'm kind of on a shorty socks kick anyway. So I might do that. We'll see. Stay tuned. But anyway, those are the only things that I've been working on, and I'm happy with all of them. You know, it's good whenever your projects are making you happy and you're enjoying working on them. So I hope you guys are enjoying whatever you're working on. And if you suddenly have kids home that are taking up a whole lot of your time and energy during the day and you can't knit as much, I'm so sorry, but please go lock yourself in the bathroom if you have to. Just for even like 10 minutes. Take your sock or your knitting project, whatever you're working on, take it with you and just give yourself some solitude, just for a few minutes. Even if they're like doing the zombie thing at the door outside, it's okay, because they're probably not gonna die or starve or drown. I used to tell my kids, unless the house is on fire or somebody is bleeding profusely, do not knock on this door. When they were little, it's just like, we all need a moment. Jeez. Okay, so aside from my thoughts of casting on the scrappy socks, that's one of my imaginary projects right now. The other thing I'm thinking about doing, and I probably will do, is warping my loom. I'll either warp it for one of those two projects that I had been working on, which the one was the small bits of scrappy fingering weight yarn that I did that big long strip. I want to finish doing that, and then I also have the other one with, I'm looking at the yarn over there, that's why I keep turning and pointing. You can't see it, but all the yarn is sitting over there. With the hand spun minis that I did from 2 years ago, the holiday countdown fiber that I started weaving with. So I might warp for that too, or I might just warp a totally different project, because I did have some requests for me to demonstrate how I did my cowl, my fringy woven cowl. So I might warp it for that, because I actually do have 2 skeins of yarn set aside that I want to make another one of those with that. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know. But I am planning to warp my loom soon. And I'm also planning to finally, hopefully, get my new loom assembled, because I would love to start working on that. Although, now that my husband's working in here and this room is so insanely crowded, I don't know, it might not be a good idea to do that. Although that loom is collapsible, like on the stand, so I don't know, we'll see. Like I said, these are imaginary projects right now. The dream knitting, dream crafting. I also keep thinking, okay, are you guys feeling this way too? Okay, so we're stuck at home, right? We're stuck at home. not supposed to be going out unless we absolutely have to, and I'm fine with that because that's like my normal life anyway. I'm thinking of all these things I can do. So, well, I can't go out, so I can weave, I can sew, I can clean everything. I did clean my oven out the other day. It needed it badly. It's so shiny now. And it was funny because it's an old oven. The one up in our kitchen, it was the original oven that was put in when the house was built back in the 70s. So it's not a self-cleaning oven at all. And so you have to spray, the Easy Off in it. So I did that one afternoon, and I had just planned to make dinner not using the oven that night. And so I thought, well, I will spray another coat in it right before I go to bed and then, clean it in the morning. Well, then the next morning I totally forgot, and it got to be dinner time the next day, and I'm like, oh shoot, I can't use the oven. So I sprayed it yet again with another layer of foamy goodness, and I put a note on the oven that said clean oven so that I would remember the next morning to clean the oven. Well, then my husband came home and he saw the note and he opened the oven. He's like, that is not a clean oven. It's not a label identifying it. It's an instruction. So I cleaned it the next day, and then I modified the note to say, this is now a clean oven, and I left the note there, and he laughed. So anyway, my oven's clean. Yeah. Again, I don't know where that came from. Let's move on, shall we? 20 and 20 challenge. Okay, so the first quarter is almost over. March 31st will be the end of that. So, get ready. I'm going to open up the threads, the list thread, at the end of March, those first couple weeks in April, so you can, add projects, delete projects if you've changed your mind. You can mark things finished if you've finished ones this first quarter. And then when I record next time, I will do a chatter thread drawing and an Instagram drawing next time. So stay tuned for those. My Lineage Pullover was actually on my 20 and 20 list, as was the yarn that I'm using. So I'm making progress on my lists. The Noro yarn might have been on my list as yarn, on my yarn list. I don't remember. I'll have to look. And if it wasn't, I'm probably going to retroactively add it, just because I've had the yarn for a while. All right, let's see what else. Oh, new things. I have one new thing, and it's not really something I can show you because it's something online. I have mentioned Kelly Casanova to you before. She has a lot of YouTube videos up on weaving, and her videos are really good. She's a very experienced weaver, and she teaches, she does classes, but she's got shorter, little instructional videos that are free up on YouTube. But she also has an online weaving class thing. I don't know. Online weaving classes that you can subscribe to. And I'm on her mailing list. And so a month or so ago, she sent out a newsletter saying that there was a coupon code so that you could get a discount off of any of her learning opportunities. And so you can either subscribe monthly, or you can do it yearly, or you can do the gold membership. And I guess the gold membership has some extra courses in it that are not included in either of the other two. So I decided I was going to do the gold membership because with the coupon code, it was really a fairly reasonable amount, especially when you take into consideration how much it would cost to just buy the individual classes. So I thought it was a good deal. And like I said, she's very, very learned about weaving. She's self-taught, but she's been doing it for quite some time, and I really enjoy her videos. She's from Australia, I believe, and so there's also the joy of just listening to her talk. But there's also a forum associated with the membership, so you can interact with other people, which is nice, especially now when you can't really interact with people, in person too much, but you have that online capability, which is awesome. So I've watched a couple of just the very basics kind of videos so far, but I'm going to work through some of those. She's got a lot of good topics up, so I will keep you posted on the ones that I have done with her so far. So yeah, but I will put a link to her website. The classes, the actual learning videos and resources that you can download and things are through teachable.com. So that's one of those kinds of platforms that I guess you can use if you're a teacher and you want to put your classes up. So sort of like Creative Bug or Blueprint or whatever, but it's called Teachable. Maybe you've heard of it before. I have heard of it before. I just have never looked into it. So anyway, all right. My nose is so itchy because I keep not wanting to scratch it. But honest, I don't have a cold. I'm healthy. That's the other thing I got to say. Both my husband and I, cross our fingers, knock on wood, we're healthy right now. So let's hope it stays that way. Okay, episode 333, celebration drawings. First of all, thank you to everybody who commented and entered those drawings. We had 38 there was 38 posts in the thread. So the first one was mine, so 37 entries. And let me grab the goodies. I had shown you last episode that the 3 things I'm giving away are from my stash. The first is a set of Patton's Croy sock yarn. And the second was 3 balls of Crystal Palace Yarns Kaya in these beautiful colors. I just love these colors. And lastly was the depth cowl kit with 2 skeins of fiber seed yarn, DK weight yarn. So, Sprout DK to be specific. So I did random number generator before I recorded yesterday, and then I'm now re-recording, but I'm not redrawing, obviously. So basically how I did this, since I asked you to, in your comment, not only answer the prompt, but also to specify if there was something that you really didn't want to win, or if there was something that you only wanted to win that, but if you were drawn for the others, you weren't interested. So I did the drawings such that I made sure that whoever the random number generator picked actually wanted the thing that I was drawing for at that time. And if they had specified that they didn't, I moved on and I picked another winner, just to try to make sure that everybody got something that they were interested in. So that's how that worked. So the first one I drew for was the Patton's Croy, and random number generator picked number 15, and that post was by GIS Girl, who is Kelsey. Congratulations, Kelsey. Thank you for entering. And the prompt was to either do like an ask me anything kind of question, or to ask me something that I would, that you would like to see me talk about or show or demonstrate on the podcast. So those were the prompts. Kelsey asked me anything question. She asked, what would my dream motorcycle trip be? And I will give you my answer to that in just a minute, because one of the other winners had a question that was also sort of related to that. So just hang tight and I will answer that question. But anyway, Kelsey, PM me when you see this so that you know, or so that I know you won, and then I'll get this in the mail to you. Okay, next one up was the Kaya yarn, and random number generator chose post number 24, who is Naughty Knitter 86, and that's Laura. So congratulations, Laura. And she had a question also. She said, would you ever consider vending at a show in either Indiana or Kentucky, please? And I would say sure. I'm always open to shows, and that's not that far distant for me to go. And I do know that there's the Kentucky show that happens in May, and I think that's the one maybe you mentioned, Laura. It almost always falls the same weekend as another show that's more local to me that I tend to do. So that's the reason I've never applied to that one. But who knows? I mean, I'd be happy to. And that kind of goes for anybody. If you have shows that are local to you that you think I might want to vend at, feel free to message me and give me a heads up about them, and I'll look into them. As you know, I don't do a lot of shows every year. I do anywhere between like 5 and 8 shows. I think one year maybe I did 10 shows, but that was like the most I would ever do. This year, not going to be doing too many. But anyway, yeah, and I mean, if something's like out on the West Coast, I'm probably not going to do it because that's just way too far away for me to want to go at this point in time. Maybe someday I will, but like that's not on my radar right now. But anything as far as like I'm supposed to go to Minnesota this year for Zombie Apocalypse. So like that's about as far as I would want to go really to do a show. Some sort of noise over here. Don't know what it was. Anyway, so yeah. So my answer is yes, I would consider that. It's just a matter of, scheduling and if it works out for me and things like that. So anyway, Laura, let me know you know that you won, and I will end your mailing information and I will get your yarn in the mail to you. So congratulations. Okay, and then the last one was for this depth towel kit. And the winner for that was actually the very last post, number 38, and that is WMH302, who is Wendy. So congratulations, Wendy. And her question was, if money was no object, what would be my dream vacation? So that's why it kind of relates back to Kelsey's question about my dream motorcycle trip, because my dream vacation would probably be a motorcycle trip. And I would say if money was no object, the trip that I think would be very, very cool to do on a motorcycle with my husband would be an overland trip from North America down through Central America into South America and around and back up. I've read so many travel logs from people who do that, and there's people who do like motorcycle trips all around the world like all the time, and I think it's so cool. But it's definitely it would have to be if money was no object thing, because obviously it takes a lot of time. Like that's a several months long thing, so you're probably not working. Although some people do it and like they're working remotely and everything, but there's a lot of expense involved in that kind of trip. Just doing the trip and then also the not being at your job kind of thing. So that would definitely be that kind of a dream trip if there was no money constraints. I don't know that I'll ever do that kind of trip. There's also a whole lot of things to consider, like, political things going on in certain countries that you need to pass through or you need to try to avoid. And then there's all the border crossings, which, I mean, obviously not thinking about it now with the virus stuff, but like even before that, I mean, that's always, something you have to deal with when you're doing those kind of trips. So I don't know if I would have the guts to do that kind of trip. I think it would be amazing to do that kind of a trip, but yeah. But other dream trips that I hope we will actually get to do, I mean, we want to do one in Alaska. We're talking about that in maybe a couple of years. We'd love to do like the West Coast, and frankly just doing a trip around the United States, an extended trip, would be amazing in safer times again than now, obviously, but yeah, I mean, there's so much just here in our own country that I haven't seen, and it would be so much fun to do. So any of those would be dream trips, and definitely trips that, like if money was no object, sure, I'd love to go do those. So thank you for your questions. All of the other questions that were asked and requests for things that you'd like to see on the podcast, what I think I'm going to do with those is I'm going to try to record those rather than just doing one Ask Me Anything kind of video or one demonstration kind of video with everything. I'm going to try to do smaller videos over the next several weeks while we're all still kind of cooped up at home, just to give you some extra videos to watch. I know a lot of podcasters are doing that right now, and I'm enjoying watching them too. But my goal will be to keep them fairly short, so you don't get overwhelmed with stuff to watch. Some of the things that were requested are not things that I think would be easy for me to do video-wise. I may end up doing them maybe like a pictorial thing that I could do like in a blog post. And I'll post them on my blog that's on the fibernymph Dye Works website. So that's what I'm thinking about for those. But I will answer all the questions and try to address everything that was asked in that thread. So thank you for those. That'll be fun. All right, moving on to 10%. How you doing? Really? I hope you're doing okay. So let me catch you up to speed here with our life. I mean, obviously, I told you my husband's working from home now, which is awesome. I'm glad. He will probably need to go back into the office at certain points just because his job does entail doing things that he cannot do remotely. So we're kind of playing that by ear. But for at least the next few weeks, I think he should be good here at home. I keep looking over at his workspace. So anyway, yeah. You've probably already heard, if you're following all the cancellations, the Allentown Fiber Festival was indeed canceled. That was supposed to be the first weekend in April. Hopefully it'll get to be rescheduled, but you know, everything is so tenuous right now. I'm just not even thinking about that, but it is canceled. Our trip to Ireland is also not happening, which I'm so relieved. I mean, everybody I talked to is like, oh, I'm sorry, you're so disappointed, I'm sure. I'm like, honestly, I'm not. Because I was so concerned. For a while, it was sounding like they weren't going to cancel the tour. But they were, you know, trying to find options for people who didn't feel like they wanted to travel. Well, then it very quickly got to the point where traveling wasn't even an option. And I think things have even changed more in Ireland now that I honestly don't think that tour is happening at all. But at any rate, they did come back to us last weekend and, you know, offer us the option of switching our tour to the same tour that'll be happening next April. So as it stands right now, that's what we're planning to do. So thankfully, we're not like losing out what we had paid for the trip. That was a huge concern. We are getting vouchers from the airline. So thank you, Aer Lingus, for doing that. We don't know yet if there's going to be like expiration dates on those. Hopefully not. Hopefully we will be able to use them for next year when we're able to travel again. And hopefully we'll be able to travel again by next year. We just don't know. Like, everything's so up in the air. But anyway, right now it looks fairly promising. I don't know. It could change. But anyway, so yeah, so life has really opened up here, time-wise. All kinds of time and nowhere to go. And that's okay. It's fine. I am all about protecting anybody I can. I mean, my husband and I both have some health issues that, like, we're not, obviously, like I said, we're not sick or anything, but, like, they put us at a little higher risk, and so I don't want to risk getting anything. I certainly don't want to risk giving it to anybody who I might come in contact with. I mean, we're up in the mountains in the country. We don't have people right on top of us, but we do have neighbors on either side of us who we talk to occasionally, and, like, if one of them would need help, they're both older, you know, I wouldn't want to risk, you know, contaminating anybody, or that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. So, and not only that, like, I hope everybody is taking this seriously at this point. I know you keep hearing stories of people just blatantly ignoring, you know, the recommendations, but I really, really hope people will stop being jerks. And I don't mean to be rude, but, like, at this point, if you are just going out when you don't need to, and, you know, you're trying to justify it some way, you know, that's just not cool. You don't know who you could be affecting, and that's real. So please stop it. Anyway, I know most of you are not doing that, though, because knitters are awesome and amazing, and we care about people, right? I had some other tentative travel planned for May. I was going to go down to see my mom. Actually, that was going to be my first solo motorcycle trip. I was going to ride by myself down to Florida to see my mom. I was going to stop to see my daughter in Charlotte on the way down and stop in North Carolina on the other side of the state to see my son on the way home, but that's totally on hold as well. None of that's going to be happening, I can assure you. So, yeah, that's just all. I'm so glad for technology that we can, like, be in touch, you know, and we could do Zoom chats or whatever, like, if we really needed to or wanted to, but we're all kind of staying in touch. And my youngest son, who lives locally, is still working. Like, his job is considered essential, the company he works for. So far, he's still able to go to work, which I'm glad, because he lives by himself, and he's funny. He's an introvert. Like, he doesn't really like having to socialize a lot, but he does like being around people. Like, on the weekends, he purposely, like, will go out to Barnes and Noble and sit in the cafe there and read. Like, not to shop, but just to read. He gets something to drink and he sits in the cafe and shop. Just so he's around people, but he can be by himself. Like, that's his deal. And so I know he would probably be going bonkers if he just had to be home all the time. I told him, you know, you can always come up here if you end up having to, but I don't know that he would want to. So I don't know. Anyway. So, yeah, that's how things are with our family right now. So, that's where we're at. I mean, like I said, things are cool. We're okay. Got plenty to do around here. Got enough food to last us quite a while. Probably even if I hadn't done any shopping, we could have survived because I keep a pretty stocked pantry. It may have ended up being like we were eating green olives and tortilla chips and sauerkraut or something, but you know, it would have been food. Okay, so speaking of food, let's talk about my recipe fails, because they were definitely recipe fails this week. I think last time I told you I was going to try making homemade hummus. Well, I couldn't find tahini, which is required to make hummus, and so I had purchased a bag of unhulled sesame seeds because you can make tahini. Tahini is just like sesame seed paste, essentially. So the recipes that I was using for both the tahini and the hummus were from Pick Up Limes, a cookbook that they put out not long ago. Yeah, so her recipes always look very, very tasty, but I'm not having great luck with them. I'm not sure why. So the tahini, she's basically like, you know, toast your sesame seeds, let them cool, put them in the food processor, and let them go until they're a paste, a pourable paste, basically. Well, I toasted them, let them cool, put them in the food processor, and they were not turning into a paste. They were turning into a very fine powder, but not a paste. So then I had to like look up other recipes for tahini, and almost all of the other ones said to add oil. Like, well, that makes sort of sense. So I started adding some oil while the food processor was going, and that did help. So it did eventually get it to a very thick, pourable consistency, kind of like natural peanut butter. You know, if you do natural peanut butter at the store, like if they have that machine that you can do it, the way that comes out, that's kind of how it turned out. In fact, frankly, it kind of tastes like that. And since it's the unhulled sesame seeds, it has a slightly bitter taste. So I basically would say it kind of tastes like angry peanut butter. Anyway, so it turned out okay. And then I moved on to making the hummus. And again, I put all of the ingredients in that they called for in the recipe. It was very, very dry. I mean, it was just, like, it needed more moisture in it. So I added extra lemon juice. I think I added some more tahini to it. And it was a red pepper and garlic hummus. So, you know, I added some of the juice, which is also partly oil, from the jar of red peppers. It took a while to get it to be anything like a hummus consistency. And it ended up tasting very grainy, which I think was because of the tahini, which was also sort of grainy as well as weirdly pasty. I don't know. From the unhulled sesame seeds. It might have been better to do hulled sesame seeds, but I thought, well, unhulled would probably be healthier because you're getting extra nutrients and fiber. I don't know. Whatever. It tastes okay. It just doesn't have that bite that most hummuses that I've ever eaten have. So I don't know what it's missing. And the other thing is her recipes are written in metric, but she gives you the imperial conversions. So I don't know if maybe something's lost in the conversions and maybe I should just make them using the metric measurements. I don't know. I was disappointed with both of them though, although I have been eating the hummus. The third recipe that I did then was falafel. I wanted to make, it was sort of a falafel bowl, and it was yet another Pick Up Limes recipe. So I was mainly just following the recipe to make these baked falafel patties, basically, as opposed to the fried falafel, which is how I think falafel is usually made. I've never made falafel before at all, so this was a new thing for me to try. So I started mixing everything again together. It was so dry. I could not form it into a patty. There was no way it was not holding together. And I added more hummus, and was that hummus? No. You don't put hummus in. You don't put hummus in falafels, do you? Gosh, now I'm getting totally confused. I don't remember. Whatever the moisture thing was that was going to the falafel, I was adding more. Maybe it was just water. I don't remember. Anyway, I finally got these patties kind of smushed together, and I baked them the way they were supposed to be baked. They were so dry and horrible and had no flavor whatsoever to them. They were just nasty. I did eat them for dinner that night because I hate throwing food away, and I think I ate a couple more. I put them I crumbled them up, which wasn't hard, and made a wrap out of them, and I piled in a whole bunch of other stuff to make it have flavor. And I think I had 3 left over at that point, and I just threw them away. So I don't know what to say. Those were just not recipes that worked out for me. The hummus was probably the best one out of the 3, but that was after me modifying it somewhat. So I don't know. I'll try again, maybe, using different recipes. I would like to try some of her other recipes, though, because they always look so good. But those weren't winners. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted. Okay, let's move on to shop news, because I mostly have just announcements for you this week. The monthly makes first quarter also ends on the 31st of March, so you've got a little over a week left to get your first quarter 300 grams logged for you. I will announce the first quarter winner, or winners. I can't remember how many winners I said I was doing for monthly makes, but I'll look it up. I'll announce those on the next regular episode that I do. So, like I said, I'm probably going to be doing other little episodes here and there of special things. But the next regular episode, so in early April, I will do that. I already mentioned Allentown is canceled. I don't have any other shows on the schedule until late June at Zombie Knit Apocalypse, but who knows where we'll be at by then. So I'm not holding my breath, but if it happens, that'll be great. If not, we'll just keep going till we get to a show. I did add a page to the fibernymph Dye Works website this week, just talking about how I'm addressing the whole COVID-19 concerns from a health perspective with regard to my business and shipping and things like that. And the bottom line is, it's my husband and I here. We are both healthy right now. If that should change and either of us should start showing symptoms of just a cold or any kind of flu, let alone the actual COVID-19 virus, I will be suspending my work for that period until we have both, gotten over whatever, and I'm past whatever 14 day that they might recommend. I will not be shipping orders out during that time, and I will basically just be sort of shutting down shop at that point. And if that would happen, I will send out a newsletter letting you guys know that. I will have messages up on the website. And I'll probably let you know through a video, because I can't contaminate you through a video. But I'm really hopeful that that won't be the case. So far, everything's good. But I just wanted to make sure I let you know that I have considered that and how I will handle that if that should become an issue. Washing my hands a ton. I'm washing my hands before I'm doing my shipping. So, I know there's various things I've seen about how long the virus can live on, paper versus plastic and mail, if mail can carry it. And, I think there's just a whole lot of iffy unknowns about that. So I'm just trying to take care, and I'm sure you are too. So, once you get things in the mail, after you open your package, wash your hands. Just be safe. With regard to shipping, though, I also wanted to point out with regard to international shipping. If you are not in the U.S. and you're ordering from me, I can't guarantee how shipping's going to go, because I know all different countries are handling this differently. Number one, there could be massive delays just because, so many commercial flights are not going out right now, and that's how a lot of our international mail does go out, on commercial flights. As far as I understand it, anyway. I don't know. I just don't know how that's going to affect things. And also, if your country has maybe enacted some sort of, limitations on what can be sent into the country, that could affect. So what I would suggest is if you're outside of the US and you're thinking about ordering from me or anybody else here in the US, check with your country's mail policy for right now to see what the status of that is. And if they're, not letting things in or they're holding things, maybe consider just not ordering right now and waiting until another time. Because I just don't want you to spend a whole lot of money and then not be able to get your stuff for a long time, So, how I am adjusting my plans for the shop, because I have to, have contingencies here. Obviously, not doing a show, so I've got a whole lot of inventory sitting out in my trailer that I was going to be using for that show and subsequent shows. I will be putting some of my show stock into the shop. I'm going to be adding it in increments. I'm not going to dump it all in, just because, number one, I don't know if I'll have shows coming up later this summer and I don't want to totally deplete myself. But number two, again, I just don't want to overload my shop when there's, maybe not going to be as much cause for it. But I will be putting things in, like I have serendipity sweater sets I'm going to put in, probably a lot of my self-striping I'm going to put in, inversibles. I've got a lot of fiber I'm going to add to the shop, so you can be looking for that kind of stuff coming to the shop soon. I will be posting on Instagram and Facebook and in the newsletter, letting you know when things are going into the shop, so you can watch for watch those places for updates on that kind of stuff. I will be adding more shepherd's pie to the shop soon. So thank you so much for your enthusiastic response to my Pie Day colorway last week. That was fun. But I do have more almost ready to go into the shop, so watch for that. And I will be adding more 9th anniversary colorway pre-orders, the customers' favorites colorways. I had originally said I was only doing a limited number of those right now, so I knew I could get them out before I was traveling to Ireland. Well, that's not an issue anymore. So I will be able to put more of these up, more pre-orders in the shop sooner rather than later. So if you were waiting for those, you will have your opportunity to get those sooner rather than later. Something I've had some questions about is, am I going to do holiday countdown sets again this year? I am not going to be putting those up for pre-order as early as I did last year. Last year, I think I did it in April. And that was more reactionary because I saw like a whole lot of dyers were putting theirs up in April. I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess I need to do it now. And I'm not going to do it in April. There's just no reason. I'm going to do it, probably watch for those, like I would say late summer is probably when I'll start thinking about putting those up. I'm going to do them a little differently this year too, and I'm still trying to work out those details, so stay tuned for that. But just know that you haven't missed it. They will be coming. Yeah, and I'm trying to think about just the whole logistics of my business right now, because everything is changing with this current, coronavirus issue just impacting everything, absolutely everything. So just stay tuned. Like, everything's sort of in flux, and I don't want to say things today that I have to say next week. Oh no, it's going to be different than that. And I'll do my best to keep you guys updated with how I'm dealing with things, and if anything major is going to change with regard to how I'm handling the shop. I don't foresee any major difficulties. But if you have any questions or any concerns or are wondering about something, feel free to email me. fibernymph@gmail.com is always the best way to get a response from me in a timely manner. Other messaging venues are not always the fastest way for me to respond. Ravelry messages are usually the slowest way for me to respond to you, unless you're responding about being a prize winner, because I specifically look for those. But otherwise, I don't often check my Rav messages, so I look like I'm avoiding people, but I'm not. I'm just not there to respond. So anyway, I think that's everything I've got for you this week. I'm going to, again, I'll be putting up other episodes here and there, short little special episodes, to hopefully do my part to help keep you, interested in life. Not that you're not interested in life. Give you something to look forward to that isn't about the virus. I think I'm also going to just do some other like random drawings and stuff because that's always fun and that's always some way to perk people up. I might do those on Instagram. So check for that. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some like next regular episode too. We'll see. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Please take care. Stay safe. Stay upbeat. Take care of your mental health as well as your physical health. Do what you need to do to take care of you and your loved ones. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye.